Hello, Jam. How many of you are Netflix members? And how many of you are paying? Oh, I like that. You'll find out by the end. I'm sort of a feedback freak, and I did a talk about a year ago, and there was a comment in the back, and it said, hey, Gib, we just want to know how you made the wicked hard decisions. And to know me is I came from Boston. I came from Dorchester, Mass. And the idea that I could give a talk called Wicked Hard Decision was like, I was totally stoked. So here it is. And my theory is a lot of people think that making great decisions is about strategic genius. And I believe the opposite. It's a practiced art. So I'm going to talk about it, and you're going to help me make some of these decisions. I've got 4 stories about Netflix growing up and 4 wicked hard decisions. And I'm hoping you'll evaluate them with me. By background, if you look at my career, I bounce back and forth doing bad things for the world, like rotting people's brains out with games or binge watching. And then I do good things, like helping kids learn. Almost Preschool was my first hit product. I'm still proud of it. Later, a startup called Chegg helps students rent textbooks instead of buy them. To know me is my wife is trying to cure cancer. So she's like, Gib, what the hell are you doing? You did binge watching. So I move on to the next thing and try to do good for the world. How many of you went to business school? Cool. And how many went to law school? Oh, they rarely admit it to me. Thank you for playing. The key here is I'm going to do some cases. You're allowed to ask questions. I'm going to give you very little information. I want you to have enough information so you can form an opinion. And then I'm hoping that we'll have a little bit of a debate. And this is really some of the key ideas of making these wicked hard decisions. And I'm going to just throw you into the deep end of the pool, and then I'm going to back up. And I'm going to give you some more context about Netflix strategy, a little bit of history, and then we're going to do 3 more cases. So one of the reasons that my wife is so proud of me is that this word throttling was invented for me. And it's a bad word. Now, many of you may or may not know that Netflix started as a DVD by mail company back in the United States. And we had a problem. We had 25,000 copies of a DVD available after the new release DVDs. 2 came out in theater. And 50,000 people would want those discs. So twice as many people as we had the discs. We just couldn't afford to buy all 50,000. And 6 weeks later, nobody wants to watch them. So what is the algorithm you might design to decide who gets these discs first? Give me some suggestions. Who should get them? Whoever pays the most should get them. What else? First in. First to put it in their queue. Or as Americans would say, quay. Which ones? You said new users? The idea there is give a differentiated experience to the new one, or let's give a better experience to the old members, the loyal ones. What are some other ideas? Okay, well, let me tell you what we did. Here was our theory. If you had watched 30 discs in a month, you had gotten a ton of value out of the service, so we put you in at the end of the line. And if you hadn't watched any, we put you at the front of the line. It didn't seem evil to us in any way. We failed, however, to describe what we were doing in our terms of use. You know the thing that none of you ever read? And 2 bright class action lawyers came along, and they sued us. And they invented this really powerful word called throttling. They sued us for $5 million. Now, to give you a sense of it, we were $200 million in revenues, about 1 million customers then. And $5 million felt like a lot to us. Like, am I going to get a raise or not? Is my daughter Kelsey going to be able to afford to go to college or not? $5 million felt really big. So I just want to read the room for a second. I want you to make a provisional decision. I want you to think just for a moment and tell me what your instinct is. So how many of you want to fight the lawsuit? And how many want to settle? Wow, it's actually kind of 50-50. I'm learning a lot about the room. Do you guys think this is a high-stakes decision or a low-stakes decision? Those who believe it's high and those who believe it's low. You know, one little challenge for us, we thought it was low stakes. All right, why would you fight this? Yeah, principle. We really hadn't done anything wrong, and we settled this one, and every freaking patent troll is going to come out of the woodworks. And this is all we're going to be doing is fighting. Now, why should we settle?
Brand.
Ooh, what's this thing called brand? What are you talking about? Was you? Give me more. Never sit in the front seat with me.
You don't want to abandon your most loyal customer,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so I'll tell you what happened. We thought this was a low stakes decision. And hint, we were wrong. And we sort of thought, well, this is something we could take care of in 3 months or so. And we started getting into it, started doing all the depositions, et cetera. It was a huge amount of time. And for all of this period of time, and every time you saw the word Netflix in the press, you also heard it in conjunction with this word throttler. It was very damaging to the business. So I'm sure you're curious what we did. We fought hard, and then we settled. The learnings from this one, the first thing I learned is details matter. So I started reading terms of use. And I had a product manager who would scour it every 2 weeks, every time we put something new out. The other thing that we learned, and this was probably the most important lesson, was knowledge of the stakes. Most of the decisions that we make and we worry about, they're typically low stakes decisions. We thought this was a low stakes. It turned out it was high stakes. And that was one of the biggest failures here. There was a nice thing for us as a startup that was growing up. We looked around and said, what are all the other kind of yicky things that we do? And we made a decision about being fully transparent about them or eliminating the practice. So we used to make it hard to find our 800 number to call in. We made it much easier to find. We made it a little bit hard to cancel the service. And we undid that yickiness. And we cut some things that I'm still too embarrassed to talk about, the things that we did. But this was sort of a moment of growing up and developing into a real company. And this was the good and this bad. So I've thrown you into the deep end. I want to give you some more context for these decisions. I want to talk about Netflix's history. I'm going to give you some talk about the strategy. And then I've got 3 more cases for you. And then I'm going to abstract it at the end. What can you learn about making these wicked hard decisions so that you can do it better in your jobs every day? This is what Netflix looked like in 1999. Are there designers in the room that think this sucks? It costs about $5 for a DVD. It would magically show up about 6 days later in the mail. And this is a product leader trick. Always show how sucky the site was before you arrived, okay? And this is what it looked like for me last night. It's better, all right? I just took you through 20 years. It only takes 20 years to build a company. It's hard. It's long. So here's the history. Mark Randolph sent an audio CD to himself in Santa Cruz, California, and it delivered to his mailbox at home. He opened it, unbroken, it was unscratched, it played. And that gave him the insight, just as the DVD player was being born, that you could send DVDs back and forth in the mail. Way cool. Went public early in 2002. 600,000 subscribers. It was really bad, because that was exactly the same time there was an anthrax scare, and people were afraid to open their envelopes for fear of dying, okay? That was rough. In 2007, we launched, January, something called Watch Instantly on PC. The word streaming did not exist yet. If you used that word, people thought you were saying streamlining, and that sounded bad. We had 300 titles that we nicely called Steamy Romance, and that's code for something else. You could only watch on the PC, and you had to use Silverlight as a DRM, and if you know what Silverlight is, it sucked. We launched into Canada in 2010. This is the first launch of a streaming-only service into Canada. And then 2013, how many have seen House of Cards? Cool. Big bet on that. In 2018, now 130 million worldwide subscribers, 150 billion market cap, 160 different countries, and it only took about 20 years. All right, so here's how I have always thought about the plan, the product vision, if you will. Step 1 was to get big on DVDs. Step 2 was, at the time I said we were going to lead downloading. Now I've inserted the word streaming. Step 3 was to expand worldwide. And what's step 4 for the company? Profitable. Profitable. What else? Yeah, it's all about the original content. That's step 4 of the company. Now, we had no freaking clue of that 15 years ago. In fact, I'll reveal some negative experiments. There it is. All right, and we had this hope, this dream, that we'd create this virtuous cycle, where the more customers that we had, the more we can improve our odds of letting people watch stuff where they wanted it, which was on TV. They wanted to watch it on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Wii, on LG, Samsung. And none of them would say yes to us for many, many years. But the idea is if we get the device ecosystem going, then we could get more content. If we have more content, we'd have more members. If we had more members, then we'd have devices. And it eventually worked out, but it was wicked hard to get there. So a lot of the decisions that Netflix made, they were not that hard because we had this thing called consumer science, that we could A/B test a zillion different things. And for me, consumer science is getting consumer insight through these 4 research techniques, through qualitative, through focus groups or one-on-ones, through surveys, simply asking people, through empirical data, observing the existing data, what's going on in both customer and business behavior, and of course, the big dog is A/B testing. Let's test it and see what happens. Netflix created the star system. We collected billions of star ratings from people all over the world, and then this little company called Facebook came along with a different gesture, thumbs up or thumbs down. And so we tested it. We got twice as much taste input from all of you with thumbs up and thumb down as we had with that clunky 5-star system. Easy decision. Roll out, thumbs up, thumbs down to the rest of the world. That's easy. My job is hard, but I have a very simple way of describing what it is. My job is simple. It's to delight customers in these hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways. And margin-enhancing is just a fancy way of saying make money. How do we measure delight? It was pretty simple. It's retention. So remember that sucky website? 10% of our customers would cancel every month in those early days. Today, it's 2%. So the service is substantially better. And why do people cancel today? They cancel because there's no money in their bank account, or they think maybe I shouldn't be watching so much stuff, okay? Summer. So what's hard to copy about Netflix? Why does some punk startup not come away and take away Netflix's business? What's hard to copy? Content. I hear content. Licensing. Licensing. What else do I hear? The experience. It works when you press the play button. Isn't that nice? Okay, I hear a lot of things, and I'm just going to tell you how I think about it. There's really 4 things that work. The first is the brand. You trust with your credit card, Netflix. The second is there's a huge network effect. Every device in the world is connected for Netflix. That's totally huge. There's a lot of unique technology. The technology I'm proudest about is personalization. They know the member tastes of 130 million people worldwide. And the chatter about licensing original content, it's actually a byproduct of this economy of scale. When you have 130 million people paying, you can afford to invest $10 billion in a year to launch 1,000 TV and movie shows, where poor Amazon can only afford $3 billion. And Hulu, poor them, they're only at $2 billion. And this is what economy of scale gets you, and it's wicked hard to copy. And there are all the examples that I just talked about. So these were all the theories and hypotheses, the ways that we hoped and expected to delight customers in these hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways. And you're thinking, well, I know how the story kind of ended up. It seems like Netflix has done really well, but I want you thinking for a moment about what percentage of time did Netflix get it right? And the answer is going to surprise you. About half the time. So part of the success of Netflix, I just describe it as high cadence failure. That let us learn really quickly. And I'll point at just one failure on that list. If you were in Silicon Valley in 2005, every frickin' VC was saying, what is your social strategy? Because that dear little company called Facebook. And so it works for music. You get music song ideas from your friends. And so we tried it. And we pounded our head on a wall for 3 years, and then had really important consumer insight about social in the context of movies. The first is your friends' movie tastes suck. And the second is you don't really want your friends knowing everything that you watch. You're not that proud of watching Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. This is what happened. We tested exclusives, 2007, failed. We didn't have the economy of scale. 2013 did, originals work. We opened up the APIs to let 1,000 flowers bloom, and no flowers bloomed. But it was the foundation for the work of creating this device ecosystem. So if I want to look smart, here's the strategy for Netflix. This is the stuff that worked. And at any moment in time, there were projects against these high-level strategies. And at any moment in time, we had proxy metrics that helped us to evaluate whether that strategy on the left was working or not. And this is what we did. Had this lockup between strategy, the tactics, and the proxy metrics that helped evaluate. That proxy metric for friends went from 2% to 3% to 4%, and then we had to kill our friends, okay? Because that's how proxy metrics helped us. All right, you ready for 3 more wicked hard decisions? Remember this company? In 2002, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million, and they chose not to, okay? Good decision, bad decision. They launched a service just like ours. You could go to a store and you could get DVDs by mail, just like us. And in 2007, they launched something very aggressive. It's called Blockbuster Total Access. You could get your discs by mail, just like Netflix, but you could also walk into a store anytime and get these instant swaps. So you had the potential to get a ton of value from Blockbuster. And this was the second time that Netflix's growth slowed. The first was when the damn throttling thing happened. And the second was when we were attacked by Blockbuster. Super aggressive. Our growth has stopped. So we have this battle. Blockbuster's Total Access against Netflix's launch of streaming with its 300 steamy romance titles. And you know how the story ends. Okay, so we had 3 choices. We could buy Redbox. Redbox is literally an automated vending machine that sits in supermarkets, 20,000 different stores. The founder of that had been on the founding team of Netflix. We could buy Redbox in order to give customers what they wanted, instant access to these DVDs. Another thing we could do to get our growth going again was to lower our prices. And the third thing, and this is extremely hard to do in situations of battle, et cetera, is do nothing. I'll give you one tip on acquisitions. Don't worry about how much it costs. Just do you want to do it or not? So these are the 3 choices, and we sat there kind of in the first couple of days, and we did just what I'm going to do now, which is make a provisional decision. So I want you all have arms, so at some point I want to commit your arm to one of these 3 choices, to either buying Redbox, lowering prices, or do nothing. How many want to buy Redbox? And how many want to lower prices? And how many want to do nothing? Wow. Wimps. It's about 50% do nothing. I'd say 40% lower prices and 10% buy Redbox. Does anybody want to make an argument why you would take Redbox off the table right away? What's wrong with that? It's a bridge to the past. We know where this is going to streaming. Why would you want to preserve this old DVD thing? And that's what we did quite quickly. So now we have a debate between lowering prices and doing nothing. And the real question about doing nothing is, how long do you do nothing for? What do we need to know? We need additional data. We need to find it. So at this point, Netflix, 6 DVDs go back and forth. They're $3 a pop. We spend $18, and it's a $22 a month service. And that's just what Blockbuster did. But now they give the opportunity for people to get more discs. Do you think Blockbuster people are watching more discs now? How many think yes? How many think no? Well, I will tell you the answer is yes. And we found out exactly how many discs they watched. Has anybody here been an intern? We sent 30 interns into Blockbuster stores with yellow pads of paper and pencils, and they came back with the answer for us. These folks were watching 10 discs a month. Now do the math. They're spending $30 a month to support a $22 price. How does that feel to Blockbuster? That does not feel good. And this is what CFOs are really good at. They knew exactly how much money in the bank, and they said, you know what? If we do nothing, 9 months later, Blockbuster's going to stop, and the world will be ours. So in this case, we did nothing, and Blockbuster stopped in 9 months. I like CFOs sometimes. So here's what we learned. First, we knew this was a high-stakes decision. This was an existential threat. We set up the process. We said we're going to give ourselves about a month, and we're going to go out and find that additional data. And we found it. It was really quite remarkable. We obsessed over Blockbuster's customers more than they did. We understood their behavior even better. Little secret, we knew exactly how many customers they had acquired each month because they did sequential ordering of their customers. So every month I was a new member, I knew exactly how many they had picked up last month. That used to be a very carefully guarded secret, but I can let you know today. We found the data. And the last thing, as you pointed out, we focused on our long-term strategy. Building a bridge to the past with an automated DVD machine did not make sense to us. I mentioned how hard it was to get what you wanted, which watch stuff anywhere, including the television that's on the wall of your living room. And we were really impatient. Nobody wanted to work with us. We only had like 2 million customers. We're saying, please, Xbox, work with us. Please, PlayStation, work with us. Please, Wii, work with us. And they all said no. So we did a little testing. This is a painted door test. You'd click this button, and you'd discover that this magic box is not available in your area. But it gave us a lot of insight that people were willing to pay us $80 to build a magic box that would connect to your TV so you could watch where you wanted. We've got high demand for this. This is what the magic box looked like. Our investors are wary. Our partners are wary. And by the way, we're now 1 week from launch. We've invested a year and a half of 100 people on this. We spent about $15 million to get this far. And that damn Barry McCarthy, the CFO, comes back from New York and says, Wall Street's not going for this. They don't want us to be in a hardware business. Why not?
Costs a lot of money.
It does cost a lot of money. And it's low margin. And we have no capability of figuring out how to get boxes across the Pacific. And then our partners were wary. Now, our partners, we were hoping to work with Xbox, with Wii, with PlayStation, and they weren't on board. It's 1 week from launch, and what do? This feels like a hard decision. It was a hard decision. Why would you launch?
Learn.
You're going to learn. You're going to get out. We're going to be the first folks streaming to television. It's amazing. We're only a week away. Why would you not launch? Say it again? No. Oh, no. People want this. They do. We know it. Our customers want it. We're obsessing over there. They're dying for magic boxes. They are. Okay, I want to feel the room here. How many, let's go. How many want to launch? Awesome. How many don't want to launch? A couple people hanging back. Well, this was a wicked hard decision, and we chose not to launch. And this was a famous moment at Netflix. It talked about focus and the power of no. It clearly worked out in the end. But I'll tell you what we learned. First, ignore sunk costs. Yes, you spent that $15 million, but going forward, you still have to support it, and we could invest our money in other things, like personalization. And I just want you to admire how much work it was for me to find a sinking piggy bank. Okay? The other idea was the difference between urgent and important. It was important that we get to the TV, but whether it happened 3, 6, 9, 12, or 15 months later Really didn't matter. And if you're trying to build a platform, this device ecosystem, you can't have the inside track or the inside position. And I've already told you, this was a story for us about the culture of the power of no. And we learned a lot from this. We learned, like, we had made decisions like this before. We almost launched DVDs in the UK in 2005. 1 week from launch, we quit that too. Sorry. So this was, this was a cultural expression. Your first week at work, you'd hear about the time that we were 1 week from launching this magic box and we chose not to. And it really reinforced for everybody this idea of focus. All right, Netflix needs your help. This is a current case. This is a case from today. So what happens is you come to this site, you click on the red Join Free for a Month button, and you give your credit card. And then you enjoy Netflix for free for a month. And after 30 days, it magically turns into a paid thing. I don't know why you laughed at that. Some bright customer service people said, you know what? We're spending $10 million a year answering phone calls from people on day 31, 32, 33 saying, we forgot to cancel. And they did the right thing, they backed them out. But that's $10 million of phone calls. And the product manager in this area, Tom Willerer, said, gosh, let's test being aggressive. Let's test an email at day 28 saying your free trial is about to end. We'll send them a text, your free trial is about to end. On your personalized homepage, your free trial is about to end. Be super aggressive. Now I want to help you with a couple of pieces of data. The first is think what folks hit this page and sign up for the free trial. They hand over their credit card. Give me some numbers. It's between 0 and 100. 5. That was actually the best first guess I've ever heard. So it's surprisingly low. The answer is it's actually 2%. And then the second one, Mr. Great Guesser over there, get ready. The second one is month 1 retention. That means at the end of a month, what percentage of these folks in free trial convert into paid? 93! The answer is 90! Who are you? Can he have a book? Give him a freaking book. Okay, so is this going to change? When you do this, so you take a bunch of people on an A/B test, you're super aggressive as they come into the service. Will it change their behavior? Do you think people will notice this? Do you think more people will cancel instead of calling later? Do you think this will change customer behavior when you do these aggressive texts, email, personalized homepage for people in this magic test cell? How many think it will change customer behavior? Yeah, and what does my savant back there think? Well, I'll tell you the answer. It drops. It drops to 85%. Congratulations, Mr. Product Manager. You've just lost $60 million. But we're going to back out the $10 million. So you're only losing $50 million. And the question is, should you send the reminder to all or not? You know what the results are on test, and should you make this part of the ongoing practice? And I want to remind you of the product leader's job. The job is to delight customers in hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways. And in this story, we already know what the margin story is. You're going to lose $50 million. What about delight? Is there delight in this? Yes. Those people that got it were delighted. I'm guessing that all of you are a little intrigued about a company that might engage in a practice like this. There's lots of potential for delight. And what is the hard-to-copy thing here? I already heard it. It wasn't as confident as Mr. Savant. Let me hear it again. Oh, yes, it's the brand. It is. It's about this trusted relationship with customers. The reason that you might think a little bit positively about this is it reflects positively on Netflix and how you feel about them. So we've got some delight, we've got some hard-to-copy brand value, and you're going to lose $50 million. How many want to launch this puppy? And how many don't? Okay, this is intriguing. It's about 70%. Let's frickin' go for it. Okay? Now recognize Netflix can afford this, where they couldn't afford the damn $5 million in the class action lawsuit, $5 million. So this is different for startups. Who makes this decision? Who? It is not the CEO. Who, what? Yeah, of course it's the product manager. And what does Tom Willerer choose to do? He chose to send the reminder to all. And his first insight was, this is actually a low-stakes decision. It is totally reversible, and it's only $50 million against $8 billion in revenue. His second was, whenever you find delight, that's your job, you should double down on that. And that's what he was doing here, and explicitly doing it against the $50 million loss. And yes, there's a cost of ethics, of doing the right thing, and of building a great worldwide brand. In this case, it's $50 million bucks. And the last idea, at Netflix, the culture is debate, decide, and do. It was a room like this where the CFO is like, there's no freaking way you're gonna do this. And Leslie, the marketing person, saying, you should, it's good for the brand. And then Tom decided. And all those people that he thought he was an idiot to contemplate this magically lined up behind him and never second-guessed him. And at Netflix, the culture was good fights make good marriages. I've been married 27 years. It's working out. All right, so this is what the site looks like today. It's simple, it's personalized, it's instant. There's this device ecosystem, and now there's original content. I didn't realize till now that that spells Spido. Totally random. Okay, so some decision-making principles. The first, it's a practice art, and what it depends on is asking questions. That at the end of the day, there's no right answer or knowing, but learning through questioning, it gives you a lot of power. Ask enough questions to frame an opinion, and then to engage in debate. And if you create the right culture, it'll be a vigorous debate. And someone will decide, and then people will magically rally around the person. I spent a lot of time with different companies. A lot of companies, it's pretty easy to get it kind of right. And my goal is to drive companies to getting it 70% right. Why don't I drive them to 80, 90, and 100% right? There is some learning, but we're in the business of taking on risk. If a company gets it 90 or 100% right, I'm like, you're not taking on enough risk. Today, Reed Hastings is the CEO of Netflix. Ted Sarandos is the head of content. And Reed is openly saying, Ted, you're getting it right too many times. You got to take on more risk. And a lot of this, it was made easier. We had a strategy. We had these tactics. We had these metrics. And we learned over time the importance of consumer science and that one little intricacy of doubling down on delight when you can afford it. We got good about framing the stakes and process. We learned a lot by the lawsuit about the difference between low stakes and high stakes decision. We worked to get 70% of the data. We learned to make decisions relatively quickly. If you try to get 80, 90, or 100% of the data, you're taking way too much time. Make a decision and go. Because most of the decisions you make are truly low stakes. They are reversible. Even my marriage could be reversible. It's still working. We're in the job of inventing the future. We've got to invent risk. And then at some point, there's another little problem. If you get it right too many times, you got to stay humble. Because we're all in service to customers. And this is a mix of art and science, which requires that humility. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. Now, I told you that I was freakishly obsessed with feedback systems. Yeah, I told you, I'm going to do a fake ending.
Oh, we're going to do this, yeah.
But you can hang.
I can hang.
Oh, I need my slide back. I wasn't done.
It's coming. It's on its way.
You know that awkward moment when a street performer ends their thing and they pass the hat and everybody frickin' leaves, that is the moment.